Hello, everybody. Corrie Thorne, the spiritual healer, teacher, psychic medium, and light coach, owner, founder, author, and creator of More Than Existing. So, coming in tonight to do a channeled message. It is about 10:15, and it's being recorded on the September the 18th. So you may see, if you're looking through my videos, you may see that I just shared, well, I didn't reshare, I published. It was in the unlisted videos, and it was only a video that I shared with only a few people at the time when it was recorded. And I made it public a few moments ago, so it'll say it's recent, but it's not. It's from January 26th, I think it is, 2020. But so much of the message that's in there resonates to today that when it popped up in my stuff today, I thought I need to share that. And I don't listen to my messages, but something drew me to it, and I couldn't remember why it was unlisted. So when I seen it as unlisted, I'm like, oh, what is that video? And so I checked it out, and I'm like, oh, that message feels like it's a message that really resonates to today. So if you're listening to it, know that it is a message from a year ago, but some of those messages, when you find them, they're meant to be found, and it was meant to be found for me. So if it was meant to be found for me to listen to, it may have been meant for several other people. So I hope if you're listening to it, that it resonates with you somehow. And it just speaks about love and hate, which is ultimately what I'm teaching tomorrow in my Goddess Within, the everyday, the soul revival of the everyday goddess, finding our divine feminine power. And so here we go. Tonight's message is, I'm not sure what tonight's message is, but I was sitting here. I have a dog who's not well. And so I had to spend some time just nurturing my dog and loving her and holding her and just cuddling her. And I just heard come in and kind of nurture the world, like nurture with love. So I don't know what the message is, but we'll see what the message comes through. And so as I'm bringing this in, I'm calling in the guides, the ascendant masters. Zedekiel is really present with me right now. And tonight, as I was coming in, as I was sitting through my day, I could feel this full moon energy starting to kind of rise some. I'm a fire sign, so I could feel that Piscean full moon energy, and really starting to like rise up some emotions. And I could feel anger. And in the moment of feeling anger, I just felt the need that I had to get, like, I could have stayed in it, I could have sat in it, I could have like really become a part of it. But I'm like, that's my old self. That's not me. I call it the old friend. Like that's something from an old past of me. And it's not who I am today. So I can't let it become like the energy that gets into your veins and just kind of takes over. And when you learn to become the newest version of you and not keep trying to be the oldest version of you, something shifts and changes, and it's in our mindset. And so I just pulled out, and this is from the Wisdom of the House of Night Oracle cards. And when I pulled it out, something told me to go look up the actual little quote that goes with it. And it says, and so I pulled out fragment, and see how she's this beautiful spirit. And it's funny how she's this white spirit and she's floating. I've had 3 people message me this week who had a dream that I was in their dream. And this is what I look like. And I was spirit, and my feet didn't touch the ground. And so sometimes it seems that life is split into so many parts, all of them separate and difficult to bring together. And it's so true. And so what we don't realize is that on each side of the tension, we all still have the one means. We all have that one desire, that one want that everybody is seeking and searching. But our way to that want and our direction and our beliefs and our core values can be very, very different. But we all want the one common ground. We all want the same thing. We may speak it differently. We may communicate it in a different way. We may have different backgrounds. We may look differently, but we all want to see a peaceful outcome. We all want ourselves to come in together. But the problem is everybody's like, we want our lives back, but we're never getting our lives back. Not the way our lives were. We'll never go back to the way we were. But this is a key time to really become aware that how we react, how we respond, how we behave, how we show up in the world right now defines our tomorrows. It really does. And, I'm like, when we want to act like politicians and we figure people forget what we said previously when they come up with a new narrative and a new story, or they take a new side, or they get on board, they get bought out and they buy into a new story and they become a part of all of that, that they somehow think that the whole world forgets what they had said. And some people like to put blinders on and forget what they had said previously, but most people don't. And that's kind of what we're going to be like on the other side of everything that we are existing in right now, is that everything that you become in this moment, some people may forget, and most may forgive you. But the people that often mattered the most to us, that needed us to still be there, even though we have different sides and different views, they're not going to forget. They're not going to, they may forgive you, but they're not going to forget how you reacted, how you responded, how you treated people with less dignity, how you let the fear come between, and how you let yourself be guided, be led by that fear story. So right now, in that place of that fragments and that pieces that we're trying to pick up the pieces, is that we're in that state of desperation where we're trying to use like this broom and dustpan, and we're trying to sweep up the pieces and trying to clean up. It's like trying to clean up while construction is still happening. It's like trying to clean up when you're still trying to renovate a house. It's everything, it's still dismantling. Everything is still falling apart. So as much as you're trying to pick up the pieces and trying to put things back together and trying to put your life back together and trying to make sense of things, it's not going to happen right now. So it's a labor in vain. You find a room in that empire, in that space of you that's not being dismantled, that's not falling apart. You find the innate of there, and it is within the essence of our heart. And I'm going to say even above your human heart, into that high heart, into that thymus energy of us. And it's the place between our brain and our heart that connects to the inner core, of that brain of ours, and into the third eye and to the fourth eye. And it really strengthens that sense of self when we can come into there. So it's our brain and our heart is so fed so much information, and we have so much hurt, and there's so many things that are breaking. And so if you're trying to bring your heart back together, you're trying to make sense of things, that a lot of things is not making sense. But where can I go? Find that one place, so finding a sacred place that you can create where you can sit in your silence. And what do I have? It's like, what do I have to accept that is of my day? And that you don't have to be the one always going around trying to clean up, trying to make sure friends stay together, that the world stays together. You don't have to be the savior. You don't have to be the cleaner. You don't have to be the person who's running around trying to pick everything up and trying to put things together and trying to keep people together and trying to keep yourself all well put together. We're not here to stay put together. We're here to dismantle and let these layers peel away. And we have to stop thinking that we're going to go back into who you were. It's never going to happen. It's not possible. Who do we become? Who we become now becomes this is our defining moment. We are in our lowest of moments, and we are in those defining moments. Who we are today matters to our tomorrows. And you have to remember that. And so no matter what, everybody is fighting for the same thing in a different way. And we all have a different why. But we have to remember something. It is the everyday people. And I've been saying this for like 2 years. The first big message was, when I started to share this was way back in January and February of 2019, 2020. I start to share because I was writing the book. I was writing the book called More Than Existing. I am done just existing. I'm finding joy and happiness no matter the cost. I was done living in the half-assed truth. I was done living in the fucking shadows. I was done playing in the playground of the shadows. The whole world exists in the shadows. We don't exist in our truths. Establishments, governments, organizations, even our own selves, we are so programmed and so conditioned and so caught in our mask and our personas and those identities that we create and those personal traits that we have that are character traits. Are they the most virtuous? Are they the greatest? Where are we weak? Where are we weak in those? And that was the foundation work. And I speak about the foundation work. And if you were to look at Tarot, and I always say Tarot is like those major life events, and then you have your minor arcana. And when I really started to study Tarot, I realized that it was the cycles of life and all of the elements of that, the spice. So all of the elements are like the spices. And so we have our virtues, our vices, and our spices, right? It's the ingredients that makes us fall from grace. And the tower moment and the tower card represents the dismantling, the falling down. And the sevens are that journey, that place when you get high enough up on that peak that you can look around at all areas and say, do I really want to go back to that? Or do I want to go forward? Do I want to charge forward with my life? Do I want to get to a point that I can let things end and let things die? And those endings have such a beautiful story because whether it's a hard crash landing or it's just that gentle breath of that last breath, there's a new beginning. And we can't fear the ending because we can't get, if we don't let things end, we can't get to the new beginnings. We're always going to be in those repeat cycles. So when I made my way through and I stopped trying to be the carbon copy or stopped caring about what anyone thought of how I was going to do my work, how I was going to show up, that I wasn't the title, I wasn't that whole conditioning. And I remembered that we were born this way and this original self, and all the way back to that original sin freaking story, that original freaking shit all rhymes, it all falls in to that same thing, that it all comes down to that, to what we turn into, an enemy, what we turn into a monster, what we fight over, and who caused the fight, and where did the fight come from? And what was the purpose of the fight? And I've watched people fall away and supporters fall away because they're like, I don't know what she's even talking about. Doesn't make sense. Where's my zodiac reading? Where's my monthly reading? Those monthly readings means nothing if we don't become the change that we need to see. And Tarot is about kicking our ass. It's about the real reality. People don't want to hear truth. People want to stay fed half-assed truth. We want to be fed our comfort. We don't want to face our own selves. And when we have to take off all the mask and we have to become honest with ourselves, There's a real raw truth. You cannot return to a wholeness and a true virtue of greatness if you're unwilling to look at how much of your own fear story is creating your stories, and how much that we get caught in our identities, in those personalities that we create, that we believe it all to be true. The whole world, no matter when, what time it was, has a half-assed truth. And I'll say this till the day I die. Why do we spend so much time focusing on that energy of how that man got on the cross, but we don't look at the behavior that put the man on the cross? And no matter which situation, which story, those cycles repeat. It repeated with the witch stories, it repeated with all of those. What made those people? Who called them witches? Where did that begin? When you needed a narrative to turn somebody into an enemy, to cause a fear story so deep that it goes so deep that we can burn people at the stake, that we can burn people down with our words, our hate, our judgment, that we can let that kind of fear in. And we are existing within it. But is it your truth? Do you have to keep going around trying to sweep it up, or trying to keep the narrative alive? Why are you putting wood in the fire? Why are you adding wood to keep the fire burning to a narrative that we can have gone, that we can make as the everyday person? Do you know how it's going to end? By us. And I've been saying this forever. Stop supporting your politician and support your neighbor. Stop supporting your politician as the truth, and start stepping and standing beside your neighbor, besides the everyday person. I've done many a lives on this, many a stories on this, many a channeled messages on this. The everyday people are still the most powerful. And we still have that power within us. But as long as we support the stranger, the devil we don't know, support the one you do know. Support the neighbor, the one you've turned into your enemy, the one that you've turned into some sort of virus that you can't go near. Come back together. Because the accountability for every bit of this lays in the hands of the people trying to play God. And what we need the most is to be able to fight with creating more of what we need right now, because what is out in the world is not going to go away tomorrow. And whether we are fully all getting on board or we're not, it's still not leaving. And so we're still going to have to deal with it. We're still going to have to handle it. So what we need the most is to build up the empires that matter the most, the places that care for our everyday people, not closes the doors on them, not shuts them out, not shuts down states and provinces and countries, but that opens us back up, that brings us together, and we hold those people accountable for what they have done to the everyday people. That's what matters. So putting things back together, no, it's about becoming the new. That fear, that manipulation has become so large, so big, that the ownership is dividing people. It's taking people away from that place and that state of love. What we need right now is love. What we need right now is to love each other enough and love each other. And I love somebody said, and this came from a man, whether you agree with him or not, a man who has stepped up to do the right things for the right reason. And he said, we have to give until it hurts. And that was Glenn Beck. And he started to fundraise into these organizations to get people out of Afghanistan. He helped to get this He said, we have to love until it hurts, and we have to give in the places where we need it until it hurts. And it's not about making a donation to your fucking politicians. Not at all. And I don't care which one they are. Right now, it is not what matters. It's what matters is that those who are fighting for the everyday people, those that may be out there who are trying to be of service in the political world, who are not politicians, but are everyday people who are trying to get themselves into the lion's den, who are willing to put themselves into the lion's den, to be burned, to be put on fire, to be do whatever, but because they know the everyday people matter. And that's where we have to put our focus. And if you want to talk about carrying cards, you know how many of us have been carrying cards and for how long? And I've just spent 2 years fighting to get that card back again. It's a thing called an Indian status. And that's what it's called, a certificate of Indian status. That said, that I had the rights to be, that I was this Indian, and then told it couldn't be taken away. And it was ripped out of my hands. It was taken away. And and I had to strip all dignity to try to prove that I was living enough as a so-called Indian to get my card back. Sending in pictures and of me doing certain things and acts of and returning home, sharing my personal life and my personal information. So if you think you're the only ones that are being disrespected and not being shown dignity to carry cards, it's not new. It's not new. It's what is impacting and affecting us today. So we're going to bring it to light. We have to shine a light up on everything that we have allowed in our world, that we've allowed out there to do this to us. Are we done yet? When will we be done? Right? And so we are forbidden to speak. We're forbidden to have that voice. We're forbidden because there is a narrative. And when we stop looking at each other as enemies and we start coming together, and it's the forbiddens, right? It's those forbidden doors. Do you know how many secret allies and secret handshakes are made behind those doors? You do this to do this. And it's time for us to stop. And with that comes the cycle of the moon. What we do today, how we show up today, our behaviors, our actions will continue in cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle, unless we're willing to end it, unless we're willing to do something different. Let's love deep. Let's give deep to each other with love and support. Let's start being who we need to be today and finding that sacred place where you can go instead of running around picking up pieces, and just know that as it falls away, what will be standing? We're needed. We're needed. So we have to stay healthy in our minds, in our hearts, and we have to go to this high heart, this safe place that we have within us that knows better than what we feed our minds, that knows better than our hearts. It is the innate, it's the virtuous of our greatest capability to be the best human beings that we can be. And to be strong, to be courageous, to know that there's something inside of us that is saying to us, just breathe into us right now. Spread love and light wherever we can. Let's be there. And let's be the change in us today. Let's find that place to pause, to breathe. Before you share your text, write them in your notes. Read them back to yourself 100 times. And I'm guaranteed you probably will not want to share the same message. You can share messages that are of change without disrespecting or dishing or shaming anyone else. You can share a message that inspire, the change by being the change in you. Let's start there. Let's be that today. And let's just know that we have the opportunity to be the light in the dark. And that our beautiful days will return. They're coming. They're not going to be the same. And that, you know what? Maybe you don't want to be stuck inside of that big ass brick ugly building in a cubicle anymore. Maybe freedom is your way. Freedom. Life is never lived in flourishing and in bliss by living in fear of the inevitable or of life. And I know I wrote the book. I'm here to more than exist. You're here to more than exist. Your neighbor is here to more than just exist. It is time for us to more than exist, to more than just exist. It's time for us to start to look beyond the fear, look to the faith, look to the light, and just know that as we start to come back together, some of those narratives are going to start changing. Much, much love. Have a beautiful, beautiful week, and look into your light, look into your own heart, your high heart, look into your life. And where can I power up today? What is of the highest good today? How can I be the change? And breathe into that. Much love to all my everyday people and even to everyone else. I just hope you can all see through and see the light and see that we're all human. We are all human and we all matter. Much love.